members wish to remove their jackets, they may do so. Have we any apologies for absence?
You've received, just that you've received.
Okay.
You read that bit.
Right. Oh, sorry. My first time. I have received apologies for absence from councillors Curley, Briggs and Moores. Is council agreed that the minutes of council held on the 20th of March 2019 be approved and signed as a correct record? Are there any declarations of interest from members in respect of matters to be determined by the council at this meeting? All members have a pecuniary interest in item 20. Can council please note that all 60 council members have received a dispensation from the Standards Committee meeting held 20th of February 2013 in relation to item 20. There are no items of urgent business. I have had notification from members who wish to speak about retiring members. I call on councillors Gary, Williams and Sykes to speak about Paul Jacques.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When you meet Paul, you instantly know that you're in the company of a gentle giant. He's a man of integrity, a man with strong moral values, a man who this council will miss as a cabinet member for education, and a man whose constituents will miss him as an enabler, a problem solver, and above all, a listener. As a grandmother with 2, soon to be 3 grandchildren, currently going through Oldham's education system, I felt reassured that Paul, as an ex-headmaster with a lifetime's experience in education, was shaping Oldham's education future as we face up to the challenges of the 21st century. His expertise, his enthusiasm, his knowledge for how the education system works was indispensable for this council, and it will be difficult to fill his shoes. I am hopeful that Paul will be back in the future. Oldham can't afford to be without cabinet members of Paul's calibre in this chamber, for him to speak for the children of our town. I wish Paul well for the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, everybody, Paul Jacques. Similar sort of line I'm going to take as what Elaine has done. Mr. Mayor, sorry, Madam Mayor, I do apologise. First person to say, oh my goodness, and it's Stephen Williams who's done it. Oh my God. Right, try again. I do apologise, Madam Mayor. £10. Madam Mayor, yeah, £10 to the Mayor charity. I'll give you that later on. Right, okay. No, seriously, Madam Mayor. Yeah, Paul Jacques. He was an expert. And you're going to be thinking, what makes Stephen say that? And I'll come to that in a minute. But you know, Madam Mayor, when he lost, I have lost myself. I've stood in 6 elections and I've lost 1. And Brian over there that beat him, yeah, he beat him. He took him out, and it's not nice. It's a horrible thing to go through. And there's many councillors that sit in this council chamber now, some won't even appreciated this because it's not happened to them. But when you lose on that day, Madam Mayor, when you lose, you're off at midnight, that's it, you've gone. Off you go, what the plank, see you, ta-da. All that work you've done, all that graft you've put in is gone. And you can't do anything about it. So Brian won, and that's it. And we want Paul to be back. Anyway, this is the other thing about it. He'd only had 2 years at that position. And you're thinking, how sad's that? Because the calibre of the gentleman, that wit and the knowledge and the determination, I'm going to do something in Oldham with education, I'm going to get me stuck in. People will turn around to say, as cabinet members and deputy cabinet members, you guys are experts. No, I'm not an expert. I just try to do my best with my portfolio, because I'm a genuine person, I'm just trying so well like others do. But Paul was an expert. This is it, Madam Mayor. How many other cabinet members does anybody know in this council chamber that were like Paul? None of you. Because I'll tell you what, in all the time I've been in this council chamber, in this palace, this theatre that we have here, since 1994, it's that over there, we've never ever, Madam Mayor, had a cabinet member that's had that distinct portfolio where that used to be his job. So we've all got our own daily routines that we do in our lives, but Paul was an head teacher of a school, for crying out loud. What more of a guy could you want that could take that education portfolio forward? No offence to anybody else that's done it before or may do it in the future, but Paul, Madam Mayor, was a guy that had a handle on it. From an officer point of view, some of the guys must have been dreading it, thinking, I don't pull the wool over this fella's eyes because he's going to clock me if I get it wrong. And he did that job, Madam Mayor, absolutely brilliantly. So we're going to miss him. Of course we're going to miss him. But I'll tell you what, everybody, don't quite write him off yet. It's not all done for Paul Jacks yet, because I'll tell you what, with how politics is these days in here, and the cutthroat of politics and how it goes these days, anything could happen. And Paul just might pop up somewhere in Oldham in some seat where somebody will be thinking he can't win that. But I'll tell you what, he just might do it again. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and may I pass on my congratulations on your appointment and look forward to working with you through the year. Madam Mayor, I'd like to say a few words about former Councillor Paul Jacks, and I'll try and be brief. Obviously, it's always difficult when you're faced with losing your seat unexpectedly, or it's unexpected to you, it always is when you lose, and like I say, a number of us in this chamber have been there. I didn't know Paul very well, but there were three matters that gave me a favourable impression, and that's all I can say. His previous career, which has already been touched on as a teacher, it was obvious that Paul was a contender to be the Cabinet Member for Education, and he certainly knew the challenges and wanted to meet them. And I have said in this chamber many times that Oldham still has a long, long way to go before we become a big hitter in the world of educational achievement. But I hope that whatever the party differences, we can continue to work together in this chamber to improve education prospects for our boroughs and our young people, and I genuinely believe that Paul believed that as well. Paul served for a limited time on Groundwork, Oldham and Rochdale, Bury and Bolton, an organisation which I've been involved with for a great many years. He quickly appreciated the valuable work that Groundwork does for our communities, especially helping the most vulnerable and disadvantaged residents find productive work and training, and in his limited time was a very valuable member of that board. And after I asked the leader if we could meet to discuss on a cross-party approach issues regarding some of the terrible poverty, in particular food poverty, that impacts on our borough, and particularly our school children, Paul was at a number of those meetings that have been convened following that request. In these meetings, it was clear that it was an issue that both he and I cared passionately about, and he made some valuable and practical suggestions, and I hope we can take forward that on a cross-party basis as well in the near future. Educational underachievement and poverty. Two issues vitally important to this borough that we must tackle together, ones that Paul attempted to tackle, and we must work together if we are truly a cooperative council to tackle those two evils, because they have no place in our borough. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I call on Councillors Leach, Hewitt and Sykes to speak about Adrian Alexander. Sorry? Yeah? Carry on with that? No. Yeah, okay. Sorry, it's Councillor Leach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My nickname for Adrian is the big man. I wish you were here to hear this. Physically, it's obvious, especially... Physically, it's obvious, isn't it, from my low height, but it means more than that. I met Adrian at a ward Labour meeting shortly after I came back home in 2015. He encouraged me seriously to consider running as a candidate for Oldham Council. Working with him for his re-election that year I appreciated his knowledge of the community in Saddleworth Western Lees and how greatly he is regarded there. He cares. He has a big heart. We will miss the big man as a fellow councillor in Saddleworth Western Lees, but look forward to welcome him back during Ginny and his mayoralty term of office. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That was a tough speech to follow, that, Val. But I'm going to do my best here now. So Adrian was born in Seddington in Middlesex. When he was 1 year old, the family moved over to the Rhondda Valley in Wales. And it was an hard life. And they moved back to London when he was 6 years old to look after the poorly grandmother. From there, he just went up. At 16, he played open age for the Termesians, an amateur rugby union club, and at 19, he captained the Harlequins. Many honours soon followed. County honours, international honours with the Barbarians. But there was also talk of Adrian being a future British Lions captain. And a famous quote in the Harlequins history book says, "There was an expression of player power when the committee's nomination in 1979 for the captain was outvoted and Adrian Alexander was elected. Adrian then went north to Rugby League and he was not your typical Harlequins captain." And this was when he met Ginny. And she has been by his side through thick and thin for all these years. 6 years ago he was diagnosed with cancer. Ginny stood by his side. He was then in a car crash and broke his arm. And again, Ginny was there. He fell downstairs and broke his neck. And again, Ginny was there. And quite recently, he fell in Leeds and broke his elbow in 3 places. And his wife was there again. Pattern seems to be forming here, and I think Ginny might be a jinx. I first met Adrian 15 years ago when we both worked for Oldham Council and both heavily involved in the trade unions. He used to talk about campaigning in St James. I know it was winnable, and now we have 3 Labour councillors. He then set his sights on Saddleworth Western Lees and finally convinced me to help him out. He went on to win his seat and ensured 2 more Labour councillors were elected. If it wasn't for Adrian, I would not be involved in politics, and I have a lot to thank him for. He has shown me what you can achieve when you try hard. He said to me once, "The harder you train, the luckier you get," and that is certainly true for him. If you cut Adrian in half and look down the middle, it said, "I am Labour" throughout. He lives and breathes fairness, equity and socialism, and he believes that there is good in everyone and always helps those who can't help themselves. A true community champion who will be missed by the many, not the few. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I call on Councillor Ahmed to speak about Shadab Kumar, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I got that right. First of all, my congratulations to the rest of us who on you taking up this post.
No, it's fine,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's fine, don't worry about it. It'll happen again, I can assure you. And I don't take it personally. Madam Mayor, very briefly, I rise to say a few words in praise of your husband. And there will be a few, because if I did a lot, he wouldn't thank me for that, and it'd get him into trouble with his colleagues, so there we are. And I'm sure you appreciate that this is a task made a little bit difficult for me, maybe by the circumstances, but it's on the same basis. He won his seat in 2011, he lost it this time. So what I want to thank Adrian for is for his service as Deputy Mayor, and I have no qualms in doing that whatsoever. I know in that role he was keen to promote the importance of addressing male ill health in the borough, particularly by urging men not to come forward and seek professional help. And I know, as someone who raised male mental health issues and suicide rates in this chamber, a difficult issue that us blokes aren't that good at talking about, really. I'd commend him for that, and he was a credit for doing that. I hope, being appointed as your mayoral consort, he will continue to play an important public role in health promotion and assisting you in all the important roles of fundraising and for your worthy charities. And I'd wish you both every success as Oldham's new first worthy citizens, and again place on record my thanks for the exemplary role he played as Deputy Mayor of the Borough. Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
I call on Councillors Ahmed, Mushtaq and Sykes and Ball and Jabbar to speak about Shadab Kumar. Councillor Ahmed, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let me be the first one in the chamber to congratulate you twice. On the day when a Gladdy girl became the mayor of the borough, I'm going to speak about a Gladdy boy, Shadab Kumar. Shadab is a very determined person. Once he decides to do something, he does it. There's no stopping him. He decided to become a councillor, he became a councillor. He decided to become a mayor, he became mayor. Then he decided to step down. Well, there's no stopping him, because I spent hours with him, many others did, trying to convince him that he should carry on. But he had decided, and that was that. He was not going to change his mind. He's a very, very determined person. While at the council, he spent most of his time chairing the district exec at the Oldham East district. That, he more or less, that was his committee. He chaired almost throughout his political career, bar one, when I was asked to keep the seat warm for him when he was the mayor. He did the job so efficiently that if you're a member of the committee, you have to be there at the very start. Because if you're not at the start, you're not going to be at the finish. The time span between start and finish was very, very small. He ran the committee so efficiently, it's a tribute to him, I think, that now that he is gone, the council is deciding to get rid of the district executives. So, we all say thanks to him. He's decided to step down to concentrate on his business and give more time to his family. I think we should respect his wish and wish him all the best. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Mushtaq.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and congratulations. It's the first time I've used Madam Mayor. Feels good. Most people know Shadab's popularity, a popularity that transcends politics into the communities of Oldham and beyond, and into the business world. Sometimes you hear stories, and sometimes you're thinking they're exaggerated. But if you do ever hear any, let me tell you that they're not. My first experience of Shadab's status was just before I was first selected to be the candidate for Alexandra Ward back in 2014. I'd had the interview on that Sunday morning and was awaiting news along with all the other prospective candidates to hear who had been selected. About an hour and a half before the official email informing interviewees who had been successful, I get a call from Shadab. "Congratulations," is the first thing he said. "You're the candidate for Alexandra Ward." I looked at my phone and said, "Are you having a laugh?" or words to that extent. And he replied, "No, you're the candidate." He told me we'd meet up later on that evening to discuss the election campaign, as he had to be somewhere, and he put the phone down. We did meet up later that evening, and he ran my campaign very successfully, leading to my election as the ward councillor in the 2014 local election. Now, looking around the room, I'm positive I'm not the only one that's had such an experience with this man. His connections, his knowledge, his resources are seldom used to benefit himself. They could be, and most of the time people in his position do use their advantage to better themselves, not Shadab. The beneficiaries are people like me, people like you. Ask the Right Honourable Debbie Abrahams MP what he has done, does do, and will continue to do for her and her office. Ask Shadab's friend how much he has done, does do, and will continue to do for them. Ask his family, ask his colleagues, ask anyone who's had a long enough interaction with him what sort of a man he is. Shadab's loyalty to the Labour Party nationally and locally is second to none. He goes way beyond the call of duty to ensure collectively we are successful. And I think we all have a debt of gratitude to Shadab for this. Shadab's reasons for taking a step back are very admirable. He wants to spend time with his family. His children are growing up fast and will be starting their own new journeys soon, so every minute with them is precious. So it's important that all of you in this chamber understand that he's retired. However, I also think it's important for Shadab to know that where I'm concerned, he can remove the word retired from his vocabulary. The problem Shadab has got, and will soon realise, is that I know where he works, I know where he lives, I've got his mobile number, his work number, and I'm working on acquiring his home number. So Shadab, while you may think you've retired, I'm afraid I've got news for you. You should have stayed on as a councillor. After Ramadan, we'll hook up for lunch, as usual, and talk about this lot, especially Arooj. And one evening, we'll pop round to see Uncle at Piri Piri and see what the story is there as well. Can I ask you all to join me in thanking Shadab for being the person that he's been and the person that he is. Ladies and gentlemen, Shadab Kumar.
Thank you. I'd just like to say a few words about Shadab. I mainly had dealings with him when he was Mayor. We've heard about his exploits as District Executive Chair, and I think it's commendable. And maybe you should have allowed his retirement, but only with a small R, not a big R, in terms of anybody I take my hat off to who wants to spend more time with their family, because those are precious years you will never get back. And do a bit of business as well, which I'm sure he will. Which brings me on nicely to when he served on the A.V. Davis committee with us, and he made a valuable contribution to there and whatever. And needless to say, because he's a helpful sort of chap, because we support some of the poor and needy people, he did us some good deals for some stuff for some people, and that was, and provided a very useful benchmark against, shall we say, some other people we use to supply goods and services to some of our more needy citizens. So I always found him pleasant. I've never heard anybody say a bad word about him. Whether I'm talking to the wrong people, I don't know, but I never have when in terms of it. And he'd always be pleasant and have a smile, even when we were stood next to each other counting postal votes like we did the other year with your good self. I think he'll be missed, but credit to him where credit's due. If he's genuinely stood down because he wants to spend time with his family and business, I take my hat off to him. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sounds funny, not Ginny? I sat down to write this and it came to 5 pages, but don't worry, I've condensed it. I echo what people before me have said. We have known Shadab's family for a long time because we used to know his dad as the bedman. So it's been really good to be friends with Shadab over the years. Shadab always has a smile on his face. He's always supportive. He's a great person to go to for advice. He's great at encouraging you. He's basically, what we say in Oldham, a grand chap. And he's always there for you. He's been a great colleague and a great friend. I will miss him about the council, but I warn him now that I will continue to peck his head, as he will remain, I do hope, a friend to myself and my family.
Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. First of all, can I congratulate you on your appointment, and I do hope that you'll have a wonderful term of office. Madam Mayor, this speech was supposed to be done by a colleague here, Harold Shah, but she's feeling a bit emotional about the whole thing. So I'm delighted to be able to say a few words to former Councillor Shadab Kumar, because he's been a friend for a long, long time, and it's really nice to see him sitting there in the public gallery with his wonderful wife. Shadab's been a councillor for about 12 years, and he was a very high-profile St Mary's councillor. Everyone in the community knows him, regardless of whether they're indigenous white community, Pakistani, Kashmiri, Bengali, and that's just the size of the man, because he has that extensive network, not just with businesses, but also with everyone in his ward and beyond. And he's been a brilliant ward councillor. He's picked up lots of different issues, and not just picked them up, but actually done something with it. And that's why he's so popular. during this last local election campaign, I was at the Glodic Mosque, and people were asking, "Well, you standing?" I said, "No, I've retired." And it's Naila. I don't know where Naila is sitting, but she was there over there. And it was like, "Well, are you sure you retired? You're too young to retire?" But those are the conversations that was taking place. And that just demonstrates his popularity. Also, when he was mayor, I think he did a fantastic job. He'd done lots of different things, and I thought he genuinely was a great ambassador for Oldham. And just a final thing, I think lots of people are saying he's retired, especially Shahid. He's too young to retire. I don't believe that we've seen last of Shadab Kumar in this chamber. I'm sure he's thinking about some crafty business plan where he comes back in again. And I'm sure you'll be welcome. But for today, Madam Mayor, I just want to place my personal thanks for all he's done as a ward councillor, and more than that, all he's did for Oldham when he was a brilliant mayor for Oldham Metropolitan Borough Council. Thank you, Shadab, for all you've done. Thank you very much.
I call on Councillors Chris Gloucester and Roberts to speak about Julia Turner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Julia was only with us for 4 years and was elected at the same time as me as ward councillor for Crompton. She served her time, most of her time, in this council with the licensing committee and also with the health portfolio. Julia works hard in her areas, and the reason why she's no longer standing as a councillor is because in the time that she's been a councillor, she's had an extended family, and she's decided that the need to look after her extended family, a little like Shadab, overrides her role as councillor. So therefore she's stood down in order that she can concentrate on that element of her work, and we thank her for it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and again I'd like to add my congratulations to you. I first met Julia when she was elected to the council 4 years ago. We sat on several committees together when she led on the health portfolio, and locally she also attended and contributed to the work of the Royton Shore and Crompton Children's Centre District Advisory Board. But I took this opportunity to speak because she was committed to a cause that I also think important, remembering women's suffrage pioneers. She moved the motion which committed us to supporting the LGA's Suffrage to Citizenship programme in 2018 and created the position of suffrage champion for that year. Julia was persistent in championing Oldham suffrage pioneers, and in particular Lydia Becker. Like Marjorie Lees, Lydia Becker was a suffragist rather than a suffragette, and actively involved in campaigning for votes from women for the first public meeting in 1868 of the National Society for Women's Suffrage, which took place at the Manchester Free Trade Hall. Interestingly, Lydia Becker spoke at the first suffrage meeting ever attended by Emmeline Pankhurst in 1874. More recently and more locally, I also canvassed her home when campaigning for Labour in 2017. I spoke to her husband, Julia informed me later, who was the target voter, who very politely told me that no, he did not think that he would be supporting Labour at this election. She was keen to let me know that it wouldn't be worth my while calling again. I would like to wish Julia and her family all the very best for the future.
I call on Councillor Fielding to speak about Montaz Ali Azad, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and if it's okay, I'll take both Montaz Ali Azad and Kaiser Iman together. I rise simply to note and thank the two members for their service on this council in the last few years.
To note the report of the returning officer and the results of the local elections on the 2nd of May 2019. Does the council note the report? Leader of the council to note the appointment agreed by council 23rd of May 2018. Does council note the report? Appointment of deputy leaders, cabinet members and deputy cabinet members, allocations of portfolios and delegations of executive functions for 2019-20 municipal year. Report of the leader of the council. I call on Councillor Fielding to appoint a statutory deputy leader, advise the council on the number of cabinet members, deputy cabinet members, and agree their portfolios are circulated.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As was the case in the previous municipal year, the council will have two deputy leaders, Councillor Jabbar and Councillor Shah, of which Councillor Shah will be the statutory deputy. The appointments to cabinet portfolios, their responsibilities, and also the appointments to cabinet deputies and their responsibilities are as circulated. Thank you.
Does council note the appointments? Opposition nominations to the shadow cabinet. Does council note the appointment of the opposition leader and the shadow cabinet as circulated? Review of district working in Oldham. I call on Councillor Fielding to move and Councillor Shah to second the report as circulated.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The presentation of this report marks the first step in the transition to a new operating model for Oldham Council that is more efficient, works better with partners, empowers councillors as local leaders with more control over budgets and provides greater opportunities for meaningful engagement with a broad and representative group of residents. This report is a culmination of consultation with ward members from all parties who were part of a full, frank and honest review of the district working arrangements which have been in place in some form since 2009. The report is also the means by which we achieved the £70,000 saving which was agreed at Budget Council earlier this year. The district review, which I initiated when elected leader, consulted with a range of stakeholders which found a number of ways that district working could be improved as we move towards a closer relationship to deliver services with our partner organisations. Elected member budgets, which currently sit at £5,000, were seen as a valuable way to effect change quickly and seen as empowering councillors in their communities. That is why the recommendation is to increase these from £5,000 to £6,000 per councillor. Budgets held by district executive committees, meanwhile, were seen as too large to use on a range of small projects, but at the same time too small to be available to invest in significant projects. This was reflected in a significant amount of unspent revenue, totalling £733,000, and a significant amount of unspent capital, totalling £752,000. At a time when council budgets for the statutory services are under pressure, this level of underspend is unforgivable. That is why the proposal is to remove the budgets held by district committees and claw back the underspends to support the council's financial position. However, it is recognised that within these unspent monies, there are some monies earmarked for particular projects, and this will be retained by districts so that elected members can deliver on any promises that they may have already made. However, to counter the problem of having budgets that are too small to spend on anything that could affect significant change, it is proposed to establish a capital fund of £500,000 called the Local Improvement Fund, into which districts can bid for larger scale projects. Finally, there was also much frustration about the format of district executive committees, which were considered too rigid for there to be any possibility of meaningful public engagement. This was reflected in the poor public attendance recorded across the borough, the lack of public questions at many of the committees, and the short length of time for which many of the committees ran. Given these views and that the budgets which were administered by the committees are proposed for removal, the recommendation is therefore to disestablish district executive committees. The disestablishment of district executive committees will free up district officers to organise and promote more meaningful ways of engaging with the public. And in Failsworth, the district lead has already begun working on a district engagement plan, as I am sure many others have across Oldham. The ward member budgets, which previously went to district executives for noting, will now come to council, arguably a far more transparent way of noting the spend taking place in each ward. This is one step forward in the wider public service reform agenda. It is a step forward for better public engagement in districts, and it is a step forward for empowering and supporting local leaders to be more available to and deliver quickly on the priorities of local residents. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Shah, just a second.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and congratulations to both you and the Deputy Mayor. I'll stand briefly just to second this report, which I think is a fantastic and an exciting opportunity, which empowers us, as the leader said, as local leaders, but also makes us really responsible and holds us to account and ensures that we spend public money in the most efficient way possible. And I think that's what we're all here to do. Thank you.
I call on Councillor Williamson to move and Councillor Harkness to second the amendment as circulated.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and congratulations once again. And I hope you have a fantastic year, I really do. I rise to move the amendment as printed. Our DE in Shore and Crompton works well because we combine it with the community forum, which most of the districts have established. We have a format that allows members of the public to have an influence on what we do and question us. District executives work differently across the borough, which is right, not a one-size-fits-all approach. They give members of the public the opportunity to hear about what we are spending our money on and what the vision for the future of our districts is through our district plan. The district plan is not something we just plucked out of the air. At least in Shore and Crompton it isn't. The district plan comes from engagement with members of the public. That is at DE meetings, as well as talking to residents and groups together with our district team and ward surgeries. And we make decisions at the DE to include projects and spends, revenue and capital. This is all out in the open and transparent. My understanding was that through localism and the cooperative council model, the DEs were there to shape and strengthen communities, sharing innovative approaches to translating those principles into local practice that makes a tangible difference in communities. As a collective of councillors, through the DE, we make a difference in our communities by supporting the development of locality, groups from the voluntary community and faith sector, and other public interests to enhance the economic, social and environmental well-being of the area, improving quality of life, encouraging active involvement of the residents in this. Examples of this are where we use our funds to enhance town centre with Christmas lights and light switch-on events, St George's Day, flags, that they're hoping to purchase some new ones, supporting a home watch scheme, by funding their room hire for the year and making the town centre beautiful in summer and winter with the plant boxes, as well as lighting up the big lamp roundabout. Environmental projects form part of our district plan. This can be anything from wildflower meadows across the 2 wards to help in High Crompton Park after it was ram-raided and burgled. It is now open. Our council budgets and capital and revenue are important factors in supporting new groups. A 500,000 local investment fund will not help areas like Shore and Crompton and Saddleworth. It will be in your favoured areas. We all know the reason why the DEs are being abolished is because some DEs are not spending all their money and others cannot control those who attend. So yet again the good guys get punished. We spend our money and are able to make sure that these meetings are not disrupted. As former council leader Jean Stretton said to the publication From Cooperative Councils to Cooperative Places, it's about everybody doing their bit and everyone being able to benefit from the result. Well, the only people to benefit from this result is the administration by choking any growth in community groups and transparency, making sure we do not enhance the economic and social, environmental and well-being of the locality and improve the quality of lives of our residents. Shame on you.
Councillor Hartness to second.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I second this motion because local politics should be about listening to our local communities and what is best for our local areas. Decisions on the local areas should be in public and not behind closed doors. It has always worked well in Sadworth, and I know my colleagues make it work well in Shaw and Crompton, and it is clear it works well other places too. If it works less well elsewhere, sort out that problem there and not abolish good community working. It works well in Sadworth and Shaw and Crompton because our district executives and community forums are a district partnership. I know that the leader may think parish councils talk a lot of hot air, but the local knowledge and closeness means that much better decisions on local projects can be made in districts rather than centrally here by a couple of Labour cabinet members. Other non-parish areas make it work too. If areas are not spending their money, then I have no problem in it being clawed back. In Saddleworth, we put the traditions of the band contests at risk. We put the funding of marshals at Dovestone at risk, which will risk raising further fires on our moors. We fund additional grit bins and environmental work, and they would also be at risk. We have provided support for our satellite centre at Greenfield, CCTV cameras, tree planting, lights, and support for many other organisations in Saddleworth. All these will be at risk under these new proposals. Liberal Democrats believe in decisions being made as locally as possible. What benefits local communities should be decided by those communities. Just like things like our future housing strategy and use of the green belt should be made locally and not in Manchester. Maybe giving away power to Manchester on these issues like this means that this administration don't want to delegate to a local level. These proposals show the loss of proper district working. Proposals to lose question time on ward and district matters sounds like this administration are trying to silence the vocal ones and rip up the collaborative working that exists in successful district partnerships. Rather than fix a problem and get rid of it, get rid of it and make the districts which made a success of it weaker. Please support this amendment. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Does any member wish to speak on the amendment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and many congratulations to you. Just give me a moment because it's the first time. I rise in support of Amendment 1. Leaving DEs as they are a better option for districts that actually work hard for their residents. Community groups and partners within wards, penalising them is not the better option. In other districts, such as Chadderton, have actually spent their budgets on the restoration of the Chadderton coat of arms, Royton, the Peterloo Memorial Stone, Saddleworth and Lees, has been mentioned before, the Whit Friday Band Contest and the marshallings over there. Very important projects that I'm sure matter to each of the districts and, of course, the residents that they represent. Removing ward budgets and one-off local investment funds will prevent such types of schemes from happening. And as members can see, these expenditures have been for the benefits of the retrospective district executives, and as ward members, they've always been about supporting communities. They and we represent them as we have been improving the areas with monies available. Before I was elected as a Crompton councillor, I attended almost all the district's executive meetings held in Shaw and Crompton, and there, with other members of the public, we were given first-hand information about the district plan and the funds that were allocated against each project. As a new councillor, I had hoped that I would be part of the district executive, but sadly, due to short-sightedness, I must admit, this will not happen. I had hoped that there would be much support with the amendments to ensure that past and hopefully future projects and groups simply do not die off. but please do support the amendment.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm slightly confused by some of this, what's been said so far. I can't see how abolishing a formal council meeting, which is clerked by a council officer and at which members of the public can only ask a question by submitting it in advance, is a particularly effective form of talking to local people. And I'm sure that as councillors, we can all find ways of talking to our local communities and making sure that the things that we do are things that they want and that will support them and their families. I really don't understand why many of the things that Councillor Williamson was concerned about in moving this amendment can't still happen without a formal district executive. In Royton, we have a community forum that meets every night that there is a district executive. The district executive lasts at the most 5 minutes. The community forum, where people can participate and speak, lasts an hour and a half. We will continue to have our community forums, and we're looking at ways of trying to make sure that they can be more participative and that more people want to come to them. All of these things are still open to us. It doesn't need a formal meeting to be able to do any of those things. I am also failed to see how this and the subsequent amendments will help us to find the saving that we have already agreed to find. We have to find £70,000. Many of the things that people have said that they have done are worthy things. Many of the things that we've done in Royton have been important things for the local community. But I do think that when you look at the council's budget as a whole and some of the things that we have to do as a council, that we do need to think about how all of our money is spent and what the priorities are. I'm also concerned that this amendment binds our partners to coming to an agreement with us by a particular date. Well, we can make a commitment to come to an agreement and a proposal about what we'd like to do by September. I don't think that we can bind our other partners in multi-agency working to do the same by this resolution. And I have to say that this does kind of overall, this and the subsequent amendments that we're being asked to consider, does smack of an opposition that can't make up its mind about whether it actually wants to continue to have district executives or, in the next amendment, is happy to disestablish them. It feels to me like we're being given the opportunity for our own series of indicative votes, and we all know how well that has worked out in Westminster. I ask you to speak, to vote against this amendment and to go with the proposal that we have made.
Well said.
Councillor Horbin to speak.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and congratulations from me. As a new person here, I would be looking forward to the amendment number 1 that had been put forward. I was looking forward to district meetings and being able to being in contact with the people that have voted me into this position, and I feel it's an avenue that's been taken away. At this point in time where politicians are seen as disenfranchising people from them, why are we taking away an opportunity to involve ourselves more with the local community? I think we should have more of this and not be taking this avenue away from us, an avenue that I was looking forward to in the Failsall area.
Thank you. Councillor Jabbar to speak.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I wasn't initially going to speak at this meeting, primarily because AGM meeting is usually just sort of procedural and there's nothing contentious. But when I listened to Councillor Williamson say shame on us, and then Councillor Harkness said the marshals at Dostone would be at risk, and things like that. It's just outrageous, these comments, in this first municipal meeting of the year. And I'll tell you why it's outrageous. It's because this proposal was known back in January. And what did the Liberal do? Nothing. They just sat on their hands and come in this meeting with some minor proposal in here to keep to keep the status quo, do not realise that we are undertaking a review into the working of the district partnership. That's what we embarked on. Now, will they be contributing anything to the review? I can guarantee you no. So if you were genuinely concerned, and if you had some proposal, why wasn't there a report produced today then, with a briefing about how you want to take forward a district partnership? Why not? Because you don't want to do the graft, you don't want to have the work done underneath it. All you like doing is actually coming here and criticising the administration. This isn't, Madam Mayor, this isn't what the people of Oldham expect from their elected representatives. This isn't what they expect. Now, let me deal with the issue that Councillor Harkness raised. I was asked twice recently in this very chamber about the marshals at Dovestone and how they will be funded to make sure that we continue that wonderful work they do because of the risk of fires and everything else. And I stood up on this very seat here and I categorically said that we will work and we will make sure that service is continued. So why are you making the reference now that because of the changes in DP that's at rest and you're scaremongering? Councillor Harkness, you're scaremongering. Now look, if you are serious about district partnership and making sure that we find a better way of working with local communities, give us your ideas and we will look at them when we come to do the final plan and bring back the final plan. That's the constructive way of working in this chamber and serving the people of this great town that have elected you, not to use this as soundbite and bring silly motions like that to waste our time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Gloucester to speak.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I wasn't going to speak on this motion, and in fairness, I need to speak on it because I'm very unhappy with what Councillor Jabbar has just said, and I'll tell you why I'm unhappy about it. So, I'm his shadow role in relation to finance on this council, and when we did the budget, it was quite clear that the administration wanted to take £70,000 out of the budget that Councillor Fielding has alluded to. Now, try as I might, I tried to find out how that £70,000 was going to be recovered. And the best guess that anybody could give me, and that is speaking to officers, councillors, district executive leads, was that that would be a reduction in the councillors' personal allowances for the ward. So, by saying that we've known about this since January, that is, I'm sorry Abdul, utter poppycock.
Does Councillor Fielding wish to reply?
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to clear up Councillor Roberts' confusion. She made reference to being confused about why this decision would mean the end of meaningful public engagement in Shaw and mean the end of being able to fund the list of projects that councillors will refer to. It doesn't. So you needn't be confused, Councillor Roberts, because public engagement can still continue. The community forums that Councillor Williamson referred to and Councillor Roberts referred to as having taken place in Royton will still be able to proceed. The money that has been allocated to councillors can still be spent on the range of projects that have been referenced by the opposition members, the marshals in Dovestones, the Christmas lights in Shaw, and all the rest of it. But what you will also have is the local improvement fund, which is a much more significant pot of funding in which you can effect lasting change in some of your communities on a scale that you are currently not able to do under the current arrangements because the budgets are so small. The district plans and budgets will come to council, so there will be greater scrutiny. You know, what do we have in this room tonight that we don't have at district executive meetings? Comms, journalists. This stuff will get covered in a way that it has not been covered before when these things simply go to meetings which at best attract the attendance of 15 members of the public who tend to be regulars. Councillor Hoban's comments, I happen to agree. I would like to see much more public engagement, much more public meetings and different ways of engaging with local people in our areas. I know that there are particular issues within wards, there are a particular issue for one part of Councillor Hobin's ward, I know, on which a public forum would likely be very valuable. And I can think of a dozen in mind too, where we can hold them in different parts of the ward and engage with the people directly who this is relevant to, rather than holding things in Failsworth Town Hall all of the time when we get the same 10 people attending.
Please be quiet, Mr. Bates.
What else was I going to say? And the freedom that this allows officers who no longer have to travel down to the districts to clerk meetings, who no longer have to have briefing meetings and pre-meets to district executives, the free time that will allow them to promote district plans on social media channels publicly, the free time that it will allow them to organise more public engagement opportunities, both as meetings and as in other ways on street stands, in places where there is high footfall, like in the Tesco supermarket, for example, where I represent. You know, the free time that it will afford them will be invaluable. This is a step forward. It is a step forward for better public engagement, and it is a step forward to make sure that we can really invest in significant projects that can make a lasting difference in our communities. And I reject this amendment, and I also reject it because it is contradicted by the 2 subsequent amendments, so I'm not even sure why I'm getting so wound up about it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Williams to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to clear up a couple of points, yes, I was in the working group. I was asked about districts working and the DEs. There was no mention whatsoever of abolishing the DEs, nothing like that at all. Secondly, the DEs provide us with the means of rubber stamping some of our projects that we've spoken to residents about, and then we have the DE meeting, which is a formal business meeting. It gives us the opportunity to be able to say, yes, we will do this project. We know our residents, we know our areas, you don't. It is underhanded the way you've done this. You told us after the local elections because you didn't want it in our leaflets. You knew we would do that. Shame on you again.
Does Council agree the amendment? Those in favour? Those against? The amendment is lost. Because we're running short of time, we're going to move and to second the amendment circulated. Sorry, Councillor Sands to move, please.
Sorry, can you just clarify for me, Madam Mayor, why we're short of time? Are you suggesting we started this debate 25 minutes ago?
It started at 4 o'clock, and obviously as a non-timed item, it's 30 minutes for this section.
Okay, fine. I'll briefly move the second amendment, which isn't indicative votes, and in just doing that, this gets rid of the district executive. I support you. I suppose in moving the amendment, I have some sympathy with Sean. I don't for a minute doubt his vision and his passion. I just think he's let down by the people who've done this work around this report, about the detail in it, about this is the so-called background papers to this report, which don't list any of them consultation meetings you said about at all, but they do mention a decision we made in this council on the 16th of December 2015, which said if districts didn't spend the money they get, we claw it back. And you haven't, and you haven't. And I don't have a problem with that, because you know what? We worked together, we did an agreement, we had a cross-party about this. This was about working in our communities, and that's what we agreed to do. And for 2 years, you've not done it. Why? And I tell you what, that's a lot more than your £70,000 budget saving you want. which allows everything else. But you've ignored all that, and you've ignored the decision of this body that it was made on the 16th of December 2015. We're now in 2019. So that's where your money comes from, and all the way through the budget process, my colleague is right, we asked what this saving was for. So, fine, we don't like district executives, I get that, I'm not trying to throw out the will of the administration, so get rid of them. But then don't remove the money, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If we then do have to have community forums or whatever, which we use very successfully in my part of the world, and I know they do elsewhere, you can then still have the other component parts and your local improvement fund and save the money as well. But no way through this process was what we've currently got proposed done. So if you like, that's Amendment 2 is an attempt to not thwart the administration's will to want to change this, but I just don't know why we didn't sit down and have a chat about it. Why do we keep it under wraps and lo and behold we suddenly pull it out of the bag immediately after the local elections? We don't need to be having this row, and I think you've been badly let down in terms of what I could only describe as a, if this is the way we engage with local leaders at a time when the public out there are so cynical about politicians, it is pathetic. It's the worst written report on this issue, and we've batted this around in this council chamber for 10 or 15, even 20 years, I've ever come across. And we all know we talk about money that's spent, but it's actually about money that's allocated. And if the government did what you were proposing to do, say, well, you've got that money, but you haven't spent it, fine, claw it back, because we've got the rules to do it, but we've not done that. But as we all know, spending money takes time. Some projects take more than 12 months. And this allows for all that. The details of the way it's written in the report we've got in front of us tonight says you have to bid for it and we have to spend it in 12 months. That will rule out exactly some of the projects some of my colleagues have talked to tonight. So this second amendment attempts to try and address that and also puts in a date because we were promised that. And I'll credit where credit due. The first time I saw this, and we had a sensible discussion with Councillor Rouge across the table, and there has been some amendments to the report, and I recognise that, and thank you for that. But we were also promised at that meeting there would be a date in the report when we would start the review of this. I know that's true. Anybody else sat in that meeting knows that's true, yet it is not in this report in front of you tonight. So that's why you've got that in both the amendments. And failing all that, if you throw everything else out with it, we must put a review date in, otherwise this Arthur Bob job will limp on, and I'll guarantee we don't do it. And we were promised in that meeting there'd be a review meeting starting in September, and that's why you've got that in the two amendments, the one you've got rid of, this one, and on the final one. Thank you. I so move, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Gloucester to second, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll make this very quick. I do rise to second this motion. As Deputy Chair of our District Executive, but only 12 months in, I do recognise that in some areas there are problems with the District Executives. However, for me, this is about the financing, and I appreciate what you're saying about taking back unspent money. There's nothing unfair about that. However, what is unfair is that it will all be then allocated into a local improvement fund that, guess what, nobody else has any say on. It's important to remember that some of the projects which we work on in our districts are extremely costly and can't be covered under 1 year's funding. So, we need to look at that. But the more costly projects do need to be viable under any new arrangements. I also have reservations about how the local investment fund will work, especially due to the political makeup of districts. I suspect that some wards could become almost a postcode lottery type arrangement, but it's actually very possible that nobody will be knocking on your door or indeed ringing your bell. In the spirit of equality across our borough, we need to ensure that the bidding process is totally fair and transparent, and I cannot see this happening in the arrangements that have been detailed in these papers. The new arrangement must be made because, as you've said yourself, Sean, it'll just limp on, it'll just carry on. You've been talking about it for ages, and we're in this situation, and this has been pulled out of the bag by yourself at the AGM on purpose. I do feel that this is a less questionable way of doing things and that the postcode lottery situation could well be avoided. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Fielding to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I note Councillor Sykes' reference to a decision taken in the 16th of December 2015 to claw back unspent money. But I've only been the leader of the Council since the 22nd of May 2018. And so the issue, as soon as we became aware of how much money had been unspent, and were quite shocked to see how much money unspent, that was why this proposal was put together, to pull it back. Now, there was a reference about things being allowed to limp on. But in the same breath, Councillor Sykes said that this discussion had been happening for 10 to 15 years. If that's not limping on, then I don't know what is. This is bottoming it out. And this will not, under my leadership, be allowed to limp on. We are committed to public service reform. We are committed to the new models of working and working more closely with our partners. And we will deliver on it as long as I am leader of the Council. And we will deliver on it quickly. There will be no limping on whatsoever. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Sykes to reply.
Yeah, very briefly, Madam Mayor. What I was talking about, that we've talked about in this chamber for 15 to 20 years, is local working and how we do with it. And on every occasion, the instincts of colleagues here are to devolve and trust people, and your instincts on that side are to centralise control and do it from the centre. That's what we've debated in the chamber, nothing else. The issue that limping on is there's no review in here. And while I accept, Sean, that you weren't leader of the council, you were in the administration, and your portfolio holder for finance was the same portfolio holder for finance then, and you don't need any report here in order to claw the money back. And you could have done that already, and you'd have clawed more money back than you need for the budget saving. And you've not done it, and that's a fact, and you've ignored the power given to you in a council meeting. Don't need any other power, don't need any other resolutions. If you want to sit down and have a chat and say, well, how do we want to do this? We could have done that. I'd have thought there might be other colleagues in this chamber we could have had a reasonable conversation with, because as we'll know, a borough as diverse as ours, it isn't one solution fits all. However, as usual, we've got a problem in some parts of it, and I accept you've got a problem. It's not a problem with us, and I challenge you to find anywhere where we've spent our money uncooperatively, not on the plan that we have to do that you approve, and everything else. We play the game, we play it right. Some of your colleagues don't. And that's part of the reason you got here. That doesn't mean we don't have to move on. It doesn't mean we don't have to change some things. But why not have a discussion? You've got the money for the budget to do that. I can't believe there isn't a review process in it. And you have failed to follow the resolution done in 2015 that would have prevented the problem you think there is for some areas by clawing the money back, which we desperately need and we could have used on other projects. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Mayor, I'd urge you to support the amendment.
Does Council agree the amendment? Those in favour? Those against? Sorry, the amendment is lost. On the third amendment, could we go straight to the vote as we're running out of time? They need to move in second. Yeah, can we?
Second.
How many people request?
Yeah.
How many people request?
How many members want a recorded vote?
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Ahmed?
Councillor Akhtar, Councillor Al-Hamadani, Councillor Ali, Councillor Ailas, Councillor Ball, Councillor Marie Bashforth, Councillor Steve Bashforth, Councillor Brownridge, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Chatterton, Councillor Chauhan, Councillor Cosgrove, Councillor Davis, Councillor Dean, Councillor Fielding, Councillor Gary, Councillor Chris Gloucester, Councillor Hazel Gloucester, Councillor Goodwin, Councillor Hamlet, Councillor Harkness, Councillor Harrison, Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Hoban, Councillor Hudson, Councillor Hume, Councillor Aftab Hussain, Councillor Fida Hussain, Councillor Ibrahim, Councillor Iqbal, Councillor Jabbar, Councillor Jakes, Councillor Judd, Councillor Leach, Councillor Malik, Councillor McLaren, Councillor Murphy, Councillor Mushtaq, Councillor Fithian, Councillor Price, Councillor Roberts, Councillor Salamat, Councillor Shah, Councillor Sheldon, Councillor Shuttleworth, Councillor Stretton, Councillor Surjan, Councillor Sykes, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Tour, Councillor Uraman, Councillor Williams, Councillor Williamson, Councillor Alexander.
Again. The amendment is lost. Move to the original report. Councillor Fielding wish to reply.
No, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Does Council agree the report? Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I can only apologise because we don't usually do all this at annual council, and you'd usually be doing something a lot nicer now. Well, can I refer this? Can I suggest we refer? I don't suggest. I'm formally requesting we refer this matter to overview and scrutiny because, unlike the rest of the budget process, it's not received due scrutiny. We've heard a number of contradictory things tonight. The paper's badly written. The background papers are inappropriate. There isn't a review date in it. I could go on at length, but I think it's been well rehearsed, Madam Mayor. Therefore, let's have a proper scrutinise at this and a proper discussion about it in order to move it on. And I'll formally move it's referred to overview and scrutiny. Thank you.
And I'll formally second that, Madam Mayor.
Do members agree for this to go to scrutiny? How many are in favour of a recorded vote?
So, Councillor Ahmed, Councillor Akhtar, Councillor Al-Hamadani, Councillor Ali, Councillor Ailas, Councillor Ball, Councillor Marie Bashforth, Councillor Steve Bashforth, Councillor Brownridge, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Chatterton, Councillor Chauhan, Councillor Cosgrove, Councillor Davis, Councillor Dean, Councillor Fielding, Councillor Gary, Councillor Chris Gloucester, Councillor Hazel Gloucester, Councillor Goodwin, Councillor Hamlet, Councillor Harkness, Councillor Harrison, Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Hoban, Councillor Hudson, Councillor Hume, Councillor Aftab Hussain, Councillor Fida Hussain, Councillor Ibrahim, Councillor Iqbal, Councillor Jabbar, Councillor Jakes, Councillor Judd, Councillor Leach, Councillor Malik, Councillor McLaren, Councillor Murphy, Councillor Mushtaq, Councillor Fithian, Councillor Price, Councillor Roberts, Councillor Salamat, Councillor Shah, Councillor Sheldon, Councillor Shuttleworth, Councillor Stretton, Councillor Surjan, Councillor Sykes, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Tour, Councillor Uraman, Councillor Williams, Councillor Williamson, Councillor Alexander. Councillor Alexander?
Against.
Thank you.
proposal?
Yeah, it's lost.
The proposal is lost. Does council agree the report? All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Sorry? Item 13, Greater Manchester Transport Committee Roles and Responsibilities. I call on Councillor Fielding to move and Councillor Sykes to second. The report is circulated.
Move, Madam Mayor.
Does Council agree the report is circulated? Appointment of committees and composition of political groups 2019-20. I call on Councillor Fielding to move and Councillor Sykes to second the appointments of committee and the appointment of district leads as set out in the amendment report as circulated. Can I highlight Saddleworth and Lees and inform Council that Councillor Hewitt and the proposed nomination?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the Saddleworth and Lees, can I make an amendment then so that Councillor Hudson be proposed for that particular seat, as Councillor Hewitt will be unavailable? Can I do it that way? No?
Can you clarify that, please?
I read this, that the district leads outside political balance for Saddleworth and Lees district has Councillor Hewitt down. Now, Councillor Hewitt, I wanted to propose that Councillor Hudson did that role.
Is that seconded?
Can I second that, Madam Mayor? Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we need to take this to a vote. So, those who are in that district? No.
Point of order. We'll get them all in here, Madam Mayor, for you.
I know, you're doing well.
Can I just ask, through you, Madam Mayor, in terms of custom practice and what the Constitution says, does the administration not choose who the district chairs are or the district leads are? Can I just seek, is that right or not before we have a vote about something?
Yeah. It is. Yeah, you're correct. It is.
Thank you.
So, the constitutional position is that in district leads in the past, it's full council to agree, but it's usually based upon the nomination proposed by the administration. So because there's been two nominations for the Saddleworth and Lees district lead, it's proposed that we'll have to go to the vote to say those who actually would vote for Councillor Hewitt as the district lead, and then those who would vote for Councillor Hudson as the district lead. So therefore, the first step would be for those who would vote for Councillor Hewitt as the district lead.
Just point of order. I've never said that before. is it not that an amendment's been moved to the report, so we need to vote on the amendment, and then if the amendment's lost, then we just agree the report?
Those in favour of Councillor Hudson for the district lead, please show hands.
It's the amendment.
As the amendment.
Yeah, that's the amendment. That's it.
All those against?
Any abstentions?
Any abstentions? The amendment's lost.
So therefore, you need to say, does council agree the report is circulated?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
so you need to say, does council agree the report is circulated?
Does council agree the report as circulated? Right, so I'm getting well initiated here, aren't I?
Give me a grilling.
Right, so on to the next one, outside bodies. Yes. Outside bodies appointments 2019-20. I call on Councillor Fielding to move and Councillor Sykes to second the appointments to outside bodies as set out in the report. Does council agree the recommendations on page 1 of the appointments to the outside bodies report circulated? Council meetings. Does council agree that meetings of the council in the 2019-20 municipal year will be held on the dates shown as printed on the summons and approve the calendar of meetings as circulated? Does the council recommend that approval of any outstanding dates or changes of dates be delegated to the chief executive in consultation with the leader of the council and the leader of the main opposition group, and that the dates agreed today can only be changed in exceptional circumstances and only after following the agreed process? Notices of administration business, none received. Motions of opposition business, none received. Update to the Constitution and amendments. I call on Councillor Fielding to move and Councillor Sykes to second the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And can I just say, due to the debate we had earlier about executives, we're going to have to abstain on this, but I want to be clear we're very supportive of the changes to full council, and I wouldn't want that to get mixed up, but I've got no choice. Okay?
Does the council agree? The members' allowance scheme. All members have a pecuniary interest in item 20. Can council please note that all 60 council members have received a dispensation report from the Standards Committee in relation to item 20. The report has an addendum attached which provides for health and scrutiny chair allowance following agreement of a standalone health and scrutiny committee at item 14 and following the agreement of district executive leads at item 12. The district chair allowance to now become the district lead allowance. Can I call on Councillor Fielding to move and Councillor Sykes to second the report?
Move, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Does any member wish to speak to the report? Does council agree the recommendations as amended and contained within the report? That concludes the business for this meeting. Thank you very much.
Well done. It's a hard one, first of all.
Yeah, I've never
Easy.